Hey everybody, it's Bevin. I'm vlogging here from the forest floor on a tarp. I've upgraded my outside game, so every day I hike into the forest and I carry this very lightweight tarp. It came to me I was hoping for a tarp to come into my life and to not spend any money on it. I love buying nothing when I can help it. This is why I love a good barter. Someone sent me a decent amount of homegrown cannabis as an exchange for my workout video, and I was like, I have arrived. I've finally been compensated exactly as I meant to. I was just sitting here thinking about me at 16 years old, and it was how old was I? No, when I was 16, I was like a junior in high school. I skipped first grade, Mars and Capricorn. My Mars and Sun were conjunct when I was 6 years old when I skipped first grade. Thanks. So I was like 16 and a junior going into senior year of high school, and I was obstinate. You could not talk to me. I was in such a fixed mindset, I think because of my I'm just going to name this. I love the people the person who raised me is my mother. The people who are around me are my family, and close family friends who were like family, who've always been there since I was young, especially a teenager. And all of them were doing their very best. And by the time I was 16, I already had a very fixed mindset. I was such a perfectionist. I was terrified of people seeing me for who I really was. And I was weird. You know what I mean? Like, I was already knowing that I was queer. I was definitely not telling anyone about it. Not talking to anyone about it. By that point, I was questioning. My mom came out of the closet at that point. She had been married. So my mom came out when I was like 18 months old after she and my dad divorced. And then she had a really terrible experience trusting someone in a lesbian relationship and kind of just went back to dating men. So ended up marrying my stepdad, which I will say Frank was an asshole, but at least he wasn't violent mostly. And but he was an English teacher and really snobby, and a great cook. So I learned from him how to be a great cook and a lot of vocabulary. And really, as a lifelong learner, as like a kid who loved to be geeky and learn a lot, that was helpful. And I had someone to look at my English papers before I turned them in. Academic achievement had become the thing I was great at. I think I could have been very I don't like to dwell a lot in the possibility of what could I have been as a teenager, because I wasn't, right? I was exactly the perfect Bevin for whatever stage of life I was in. But I just finished this book called Atomic Habits. Life-changing book. I could not recommend it highly enough. And I'm going to know you're a leader if you pick that book up, because it takes self-leadership to do anything like this, to want to improve in any way in your life. I had a really rough time in 2019. I really needed to dig in and get myself growing out of the pain that I was in. A lot of things in my life fell apart. This love relationship that I thought was going to be forever was only about 6 years, and which was fine because it's what needed to happen, but it was very disrupting for me. I had changed careers. I leapt away from being a lawyer, having someone who was paying for my entrepreneurial ventures, basically supporting my life, because I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. And I was like, I'm not going to sit for the California bar. Literally, the thought of sitting for the California bar made me feel this sickening, terrible, nauseous feeling that I had only felt before when I was a lawyer looking for jobs, whenever I would submit my resume somewhere. It was a terrible full body feeling, which I don't get that often anymore because I'm not so far out of alignment. But when when we were in New York talking about moving to California, and I was like, I'm going to have to give up my law career of 15 years. That's a long time to dig in roots, to have client referrals in a place. You know what I mean? I had a rent stabilized apartment in Brooklyn, New York. I was paying $980, a little less than that, I think, to live in a really big apartment. We had a lot of stuff between me and Damien. Oh, that was a great apartment. She still has it, still rent stabilized. God, that was a great apartment. I wouldn't move in with Dara when she wanted me to move in with her, because we were both living in Brooklyn and she didn't have a place to live. She wanted me to move in with her to make it easier for her. And also we like spending time together. But I was like, no way. I was like, I live in a rent stabilized apartment with a roommate I love. What? No. And it's like, it was dog friendly building. Oh, it was so good. That was great. It was like 2 blocks away from the Children's Museum in Brooklyn. There's a really cute park, like it is so rare in New York to have a full park that's like a full set of city blocks, like something that big. There's a lot of pocket parks here and there. The park system in New York is incredible. And there's rats in the park, which is weird. All of it. I mean, I'm glad to be laying on the forest floor, and the likelihood of me seeing a rat is like 100% less than if I was laying on the park by my old Brooklyn apartment. But anyway, I read Atomic Habits, and I wanted to transport myself back in time to tell 16-year-old me. Oh, so I'm reading Atomic Habits because I'm trying to improve my life, right? Like, I'm on this like grow through it to go through it sort of thing. I don't want to repeat the same patterns, right? In the next relationship, I really want to be just a better version of myself. I already am, you know what I mean? Like, there's already so much I've learned. So Atomic Habits was in that protocol, and I am changed forever. I'm going to have to read it like 100 times between now and the end of my life, because you're constantly tweaking your habits on the atomic level, the very bottom. But there's this one, like, if I could just go back in time and give 16-year-old Bevin, like, read this and read if you read only one thing, read the chapter about the 2-minute method. I was such a fear-based procrastinator. If I could save myself the toxicity of all of that stress by simply learning to chunk things down into 2-minute tasks, I get so much done now. If it's something, there's even like a part of it, like you build on it, right? Like, you start with 2 minutes at a time, and then eventually you're the kind of person for whom that is not a big deal to do, right? Like, part of a habit is that it becomes part of you. And I just wish I could give that to 16-year-old Bevin, because there's so much recreational stress I experienced as a young person, as a person trying to figure out who I was in a society that did not feel great about gay people, did not feel great about fat people, still doesn't. And like, definitely didn't understand my gender, felt like I just felt like I needed to please so many people in order to be safe. And I was under so much stress, just emotionally. I was so hard-headed, because at this point, like, I was just so like defensive of like what people thought of me. I had multiple adults. I think about this. Things occur to me all the time. I got sent to the guidance counselor multiple times because I was sleeping in classes, because I wasn't getting enough sleep, because I was overachieving. I was doing too much. I had like so many leadership responsibilities, and like, yes, all of it stems from, oh my God, you have to be very well resumed to get into college. And I had to go to college in order to be safe. Like, this was just like how life was going, right? And so I was like working, a student leader. I was like student member of the school board, like I think the most influential position in student leadership. I'll say that. And it was elected, and it was really fun. I loved doing leadership. I got to crown the homecoming queen because I was like around, you know what I mean? Like, making it happen. So I didn't wear the tiara, but I did like put the tiara on the homecoming queen. And now I crown myself all the time in my aerobics class. It's one of the moves. I think, what's fun is I wasn't prom queen in high school, but I have been voted prom queen a few times as an adult, and I've won multiple raffles of prom queen. There was one time I was prom queen with somebody else, where 2 couples, none of us were couples, but like 2 people, like 4 people basically. It was like a split gender royalty, but both kings were trans men. So anyway, it was a fun little gender prom queer New Year's party. Good themes. I miss parties. I miss people. I miss hugging. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. If you don't have to be 16 to appreciate this. I think anybody at any age can like choose to start growing, right? And I realized once I started really investing in like growth-oriented activities every single day and just habit stacking, it gave me good routine, which helped my mental health tremendously. Part of those habits that I started stacking became also this daily forest walk that I take, where I literally just go into the forest and do some healing. I dance every day in the forest. That's part of my healing, and an accountability exercise I created with Instagram stories. I moved up here at the end of 2019, and I was just needing to find more joy, and I knew that dancing brought me joy, and I was only dancing to teach my once a week filmed aerobics class, which I was doing. I had some tour archives, and then I started filming it in my I was like, oh, what if I filmed it here, like in this cute garden in this place I was subletting when I first moved here? But I would walk in the forest every day, and I just was like, you know what? Let me start this habit of just dancing and just getting my body moving. Because, you know, you can act your way into feeling, but usually you can't. And sometimes you can feel your way into acting, right? Like, but most of the time you can't rely on feeling like doing something. You have to just say, this is a habit that I do every day. That's kind of the basics of Atomic Habits. You're going to want to read it, whoever you are out there. If you want to grow and just level up into some next version of yourself, Atomic Habits is the way. It talks about, this is really like the thing I'm focused most on, is he talks about, like, he figured out how to live out his full potential. And I'm like trying to think of any time in my life where I feel like I was living my full potential. Because when I was a lawyer, like, I was a great real estate lawyer. Like, I was great at what I did. But I also, like, it wasn't who I was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't my potential, and it was somebody else's potential for me. Like, a lot of people told me I should go to law school. That's kind of why I went. Like, I was scared to tell people that I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated. I should have started just reading success books. There was no YouTube when I was a young person. I'm glad, actually. It's like, I wish I could have had YouTube, because I could have learned how to be better and more myself, you know, like, because what's so cool these days is you have an interest and then you just put it in YouTube and you can learn everything. It's like a walking university. There's so many ways to just level up your life by just learning more. And I feel like, having done that for the last year and a half, it feels so intellectually rigorous, and like I feel more alive. And I feel like I'm doing things that are really nourishing me, because I'm developing habits that, like, sustain me. And because, like, my brain was not a happy place to be in 2019. I needed to make some changes. And so really focusing on my healing has been so good. I watched that Meghan Markle and Harry thing, and I'm sorry, like, I've watched The Crown. Like, everything that played out is totally on script. It is as though this is part of The Crown. Like, everything about it, like, where it's about the family and the institution, and like saying horrible things about someone's child before they're even born, and like ostracizing people, and like, and denying their security. That's the thing that I thought that was the most egregious, because, like, and it also makes me think maybe Queen Elizabeth is going to be the last sovereign in that family. You know, like, maybe it's over. When is it over? You know what I mean? Like, is their pomp and circumstance worth it? Like, who's paying for this? Like, I don't care if Harry gets a Netflix and a Spotify deal. Like, you know what I mean? It's an equal playing field these days. Like, well, no, it's not. Things are totally not distributed equally. I mean, people have more access to what they want to pay attention to. You know what I mean? So a lot of us out there can just make things, put it up on YouTube, become aerobics instructors, and find a really great crew of people from around the world that meet them on Zoom to take aerobics with them. I don't know. This is like the amazing internet where content making is a thing. And if you have people who want to watch your content, I haven't even looked up what the Netflix deal is, but I watched the interview, and I was knocked off my socks by the whole situation. And I'm so incredibly grateful to Meghan Markle for being brave enough to tell her story, because when you share who you really are and what you go through, you set other people free. And Harry for sharing his story, and like, especially how he felt ill-equipped to deal with her mental health stuff. And like, also the fact that there are places that people can go for like mental health help, you know? And also how like that's influenced by resources, right? Like, I was going through very similar stuff to what Meghan was describing. Like, literally my brain would tell me, like, you don't belong here, you need to kill yourself, all the time, just frequently, all day long. And I was open with my therapist about it. And this is different from Bevin at 16, where like I didn't hear anyone's concern for me. Like, I had guidance counselors, teachers, Girl Scout leaders, all sorts of kind adults in my life, thank goddess, who like expressed concern for like how I was living and like the emotional status at home. And I didn't take anybody up on any help, and I could have used some mental health resources. So I'm glad that Megan's talking about this, because like I experienced something really similar. Like, my brain was in a really dark place. I didn't realize the circumstances around me needed to change as much as they did. And as soon as I allowed them to change, I was able to move somewhere much more peaceful, as they did, and really focus on my mental health and the routines and things I needed to do to get me out of there. And I knew part of it was like reading and audiobooks, really. Like I just started like really deeply listening to someone else's voice for a while, because like, and I've talked about this on my podcast. There's a great episode. It's called You Must Believe in Spring. So if you're dealing with these thoughts, I go into like this list that I make of things that I can do in the moment. Because for me, it's a moment by moment. Like I got to pull myself out of this. But Meghan Markle was looking for help. And this is kind of what I did. Like I could never have afforded to check into a place. Like I was, you know how Kevin Smith financed clerks with a credit card? Like this is like a famous story of like how that was made. I think that's how I kept Fat Kid Dance Party. I don't think that's how I kept Fat Kid Dance Party alive for a year. Is like, and trying to stay in LA. Like I couldn't afford it. Like my ex leaving, and my business like just took us. I mean, it was going to be okay for a couple months, and then suddenly everything took a nosedive, and I didn't know what to do. And I was kind of driving Lyft and trying to figure my life out. And like, it was really fascinating. Lyft driving taught me a lot about other humans and like how great it can be, how your next friend is just, you know, a conversation away. Like, and also it was like really wearing and tearing on my body. And I was making like $8 an hour. It was not cute. And I was trying desperately to stay in LA. And then everything seemed to fall apart. But actually I got to move here, work on my mental health, and like learn how to navigate uncertainty, which in Brene Brown's, podcast, she has a solo episode towards the end of December where she talks about her new update for FFTs, effing first times, and how we need to stay basically mentally. We need to sleep a lot when we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty, but if we can stay like mentally primed to stay in uncertainty, we can actually really accomplish a lot of creating the world we want to see. It's a beautiful episode. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend Atomic Habits. Thanks for visiting with me today. Thanks for tuning into this whole vlog. Thanks for being out here. I know you're alive in 2021 for a reason. And if you're watching this in an archive, you're alive at whatever this time is in the future, time and space, for a reason too. And we need you. And I hope that you choose every moment to stay alive. Bye.